Many agree that the most inherent fear instilled in all humans is that of something that takes our flesh and our voice, a mimic. However, a truth none can possibly admit is that our greatest fear, instilled in all men, is that we ourselves are flawed individuals. I am a flawed person. I have made mistakes I cannot comprehend. I have done things I cannot fix or rewrite. Our fears often manifest in ways that beget new fears. The fear of the unknown becomes the fear of the darkest, deepest pits of the ocean, the parts we know nothing about, and the fear that whatever creature lies beneath what we cannot see might come out to grab us and pull us down. It's a fear I share with most, for it came from a dream I had recently. I promise this whole spiel of mine will mean something to you, reader. So please, allow me to indulge you in what has led me to write this. I have never been the picture-perfect husband or father. I'd wake up to my wife, Mary, sleeping beside me, her black hair flowing down to her shoulders, her makeup still on from the night before, as she was too lazy to remove it. She was always so beautiful. I'd sneak out of bed to make her breakfast, set it on her bedside table with a note telling her I loved her, ending it with a kiss on her cheek before leaving for work. Not this morning. As I went to give her a kiss, I felt her cheek crumble beneath the weight of my soft kiss. My eyes shot open to reveal her face in perfect condition. She was alive and fully intact. I sat there shaking like a dog, unsure of what to do. She then turned to me, wiping drool from her mouth. A smile grew on her face as her eyes met mine. She spoke to me, her voice soft and slow, still half asleep. "Off to work already? Ooh, you made my favorite as always. What a sweetheart." As if nothing had happened, she would pick up her plate of freshly made pancakes and begin to dig in. Why would it be like anything had happened? I'm the one who felt it. It was all in my head. A wave of relief swept over my body. The fear I had once felt anchoring me down was gone. "Did you check on Ava yet?" Our daughter, the light of our lives. Admittedly, I had not remembered to check on her. I normally would do so after giving my wife her breakfast. However, maybe in my fear, I had forgotten that duty of mine, not to mention she was currently distracting me by being awake. "No, I'll get that done right away, sweetheart. I was just admiring you. You're so beautiful, you know that?" She giggled, covering her mouth as she had just taken a big bite and didn't want to expose a mouthful of food. Her laughter filled me with so much joy. "I know you're lying to me, I can always tell. What's wrong, Seth? Are you feeling all right?" I wasn't sure how to explain it away without digging my hole even deeper with more lies. My father always taught me, the best way to cover a lie is with half-truths. "I was worried about you. I thought you had stopped breathing, nothing more," I said with confidence. "Okay then, I believe you. Go check on your daughter, will you?" I leaned forward, giving her a kiss on the forehead, before heading down to our daughter's room, across the hall from ours. It was nice to have a quiet morning. Usually by now my daughter would be crying. I could never tell if it was from hunger or from being dirty. That was her mother's thing, she always knew. The light underneath the door looked to be flickering, something I'd have to fix after work, of course. I slowly opened the door, noticing first that the light was off. The flickering must have been the bulb dying out. But as my eyes began to adjust to the room in front of me, it became clear that I was staring at a long, endless hall of nothing. A door sat at the very end of it. Just one. I slammed the door shut, closing my eyes and repeating to myself that this was just another dream I was in. I had to have been sleepwalking. As I opened my eyes slowly, I noticed light flooding out from beneath the door. Confused, I opened it again, noticing this time that it was my daughter's room. What the hell was happening? My daughter was fast asleep in her crib. I was thankful that, for once in the last week, she was silent, sound asleep. Probably better off mentally than her own father, who had just hallucinated a hallway taking over her room. This was not the first morning things had gone awry. Some mornings I'd wake up, walk over to my bathroom door, and upon opening it, I would see that same long, dark hallway with an illuminated door at the end. That was the only new thing. Eventually, I mustered up the courage to brave the long corridor one night when it had replaced my pantry. As I crept my way toward the door, I began to feel the hallway shifting in ways I couldn't describe, twisting and turning behind me with each step I took. The walls seemed to change their patterns the closer I got to the door, but as I turned to look, they'd warp back as if nothing had happened. I had tunnel vision, focusing only on the door. Out of my peripherals, only occasionally, I'd see the walls shift from being wooden to this strange, reddish, fleshy texture. My heart was pounding hard and fast. I could feel it ready to burst out of my chest. My hands were shaking profusely. Was I afraid? I hadn't even taken the time to think about how truly fearful I was of what could be beyond that door. But once I opened it, it revealed my bedroom. My wife sat with our baby in her arms. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face, and a look of horror washed over it as her eyes met mine. The baby in her arms was nothing more than a lifeless husk, the color drained from her face, her skin a cold gray, foam spilling from her mouth. My lungs felt stripped of air, my throat dried up, and my heart sank beneath my stomach. I couldn't form words. Tears welled up in my eyes, and before I could stammer out a sound, my wife spoke. "Are you aware of where you are, Seth? Are you awake or asleep? Alive or dead? What is happening in your head? What is happening before your very eyes?" Her face, once covered in fear and wet with tears, had now shown a horror I hadn't ever expected to witness. Her face was gone. Eyes, mouth, nose, all the features of hers I had known were replaced by what appeared to be wood. I couldn't think, I couldn't breathe. What was happening? Was I asleep? Was I dreaming? I had finally managed to muster up the courage to rise to my feet. It was clear to me that I had to get away from whatever was going on. That damn door had led me to this nightmare scenario. I had to wake up. I had to get out of here. It was clear my fears, my own nightmares, were manifesting themselves beyond the door. Maybe the only way I could wake up was back through the door I had come from. As I turned around to open it, I heard a faint cry coming from our daughter. Having seen the abomination my wife had become, I refused to turn back around to see what my daughter might have become. I bit down on my lower lip, closing my eyes and reaching my hand out towards the door, when suddenly my wife spoke one final time to me. "Take some responsibility for once in your life, darling." I pushed the door open, only opening my eyes once I had felt myself come through to the other side, closing the door behind me and leaving all the nightmares with it. I was once again in my room. This time it was normal. My wife was there again. She was sleeping on the bed. It really must have just been a dream. I must have been sleepwalking as well. That's how I ended up here. I mean, I was just downstairs after all, wasn't I? No matter. Maybe I hadn't properly woken up yet. I finished my routine, continued my day, and tried my best to forget about it. I would like to lay out my house so that you might get an understanding of how confusing things will get as I continue to tell you about the many happenings. I live in a 2-story house. From the north entrance to the south, there is a living room and a den. A large wall separates the two. Underneath the stairs and between the 2 rooms lies a bathroom. Adjacent to the living room at the south side of the house is a kitchen. Connected to the east side of the kitchen is a pantry, the one I walked through earlier. Inside there was a door to the garage, although I had never used it. Connected to the south side of the house is a sliding door to the backyard. Back to the north side of the house we will find the stairs. Going up the stairs we have 3 rooms. On the west side is my daughter's room. On the south side is the bathroom. On the east side is the main bedroom. That's all you really need to know. Those are all the rooms and doors that exist in the house. One night, I awoke to the sound of a door slamming downstairs. Shooting up out of bed, I looked around and saw my wife sleeping like a rock. She could wake up at the drop of a hat if it were our baby screaming and crying, but for anything else, she wouldn't even budge. I admired that about her. No time to think about that now. I had to figure out what the sound was. I reached into my bedside drawer and pulled out my handgun. Then I began making my way downstairs, checking the front door first. It was still completely locked. I even had a deadbolt installed at the top that hadn't been undone. There was no way anyone could have gotten in, unless they'd come through the back door. So that, of course, was where I decided to look next. The back door was locked as well, and the long stick I used to keep the sliding door from opening was still in place. No way anyone could have opened that. I know most people would have, and probably should have, checked the pantry or investigated the garage door. I didn't do that, though, and instead made my way back to bed. As I walked toward the north end of the house, I noticed two doors on either side of me, one leading to the bathroom, the other across from it. But there was something new. The wall dividing the living room from the den now had a door in it. I rubbed my eyes, half expecting it to vanish. The door looked like any other in my house. It even seemed to belong there, as if it had always been part of the design. I thought about the last time I stepped through a door I wasn't supposed to, about what I saw then. Fear prickled at the edge of my thoughts, but, to tell you the truth, the curiosity of a door suddenly appearing in my home was enough to pull me past that fear. A basement. The door opened up to a basement that didn't exist, or at least I don't remember it ever existing. No, not only am I certain it didn't exist, it was impossible for it to exist. There was no way anything could exist beneath the house. I was absolutely certain of that. But for some odd reason, my mind shut off all fear and worry and was drawn in by the long staircase, descending into a seemingly endless void. I pulled out my phone, turned on the flashlight, and began making my way down into the impossible. It felt like I had spent an hour descending down the stairs. At no point had I ever thought of turning back. The call of the void drew me deeper and deeper in, until I found myself standing in front of a door. This one was different from the one I opened in order to get here. It was made of strong oak wood with wrought iron hinges. Not just that, but this one had an Ouroboros engraved into the door. I had to know what was beyond the door. I had to know what was drawing me down here. My wife woke me that morning to tell me I'd been crying in my sleep. No words, just sobbing, hysterical and raw. When I finally opened my eyes, my face was slick with tears. I wiped them away, confused, trying to recall what dream could have reduced me to that state. Nothing came to mind. I've always struggled to show emotion. People often said I seemed cold, that I lacked empathy. Maybe they were right. It wasn't that I didn't feel, it was that I never quite understood what I was feeling. Even then, I couldn't make sense of it. Why had I been crying? There was a mirror just beyond the door, but it didn't reflect me as I was. It showed me as I had been that night, still lying in bed. I hadn't been crying because of a dream. I hadn't been awakened by my wife. I hadn't woken up at all. I watched myself weep for what felt like hours, a soundless agony that gnawed at something deep inside me. Fear began to root itself in my chest, slow and suffocating. That was when I realized the truth. The person who had been beside me every night and every day had never really been there at all. I slammed the door shut, leaning against it to catch my breath, to make sense of what I'd seen. Surely this was a dream. It had to be. There was no other explanation. If I could just feel something, anything, it might bring me back. So I threw the door open again, intent on shattering the mirror, intent on feeling pain if it meant waking up. But I froze. The mirror showed her, my wife, standing where my reflection should have been, staring directly at me. Her expression was hollow, her eyes full of something I couldn't name, sorrow maybe, or accusation. My throat constricted. Words died before I could speak them. My breath quietly drained from my lungs, and I could only let out pathetic sound as I struggled to draw it back. I didn't know why she was there, but the grief in her face struck through me like a blade. I couldn't bear to look at her another second. I closed the door slowly. I didn't open it again. Instead, I began climbing the stairs. Time warped as I moved upward. An hour became a lifetime. Every step felt heavier, the air thicker. What was happening in this godforsaken house? What was causing me to continue falling down a new rabbit hole? night after night. The twisting halls, the breathing walls, the basement that shouldn't exist, the mirror showing a memory I must have nixed from my mind. And my wife. My wife. I remember our wedding, the birth of our child, the warmth of her hand in mine, the laughter, the light, the unbearable perfection of it all. She was everything I ever wanted, but now it feels like none of it was real. Like she wasn't real. Like the child I held in my arms was only a dream I convinced myself to believe. Was it psychosis? Exhaustion? A mind unraveling under its own weight? I stopped, lost in the storm of my thoughts when I heard it. The slow, deliberate creak of wood behind me. Footsteps. Following. I froze. The sound stopped too. Then came the breathing. Deep, ragged, inhumanly slow. I didn't turn around. I just moved. Faster, step by step. The floorboards groaned in reply. Closer now, gaining on me. My heart was pounding hard enough to split my ribs. The rhythm erratic and desperate. The darkness at the top of the stairs seemed endless until I saw it. A thin strip of light bleeding from beneath a door. Finally, a way out. Or at least, that's what I told myself. The footsteps behind me were the first thing I noticed disappear. For reasons I'll never understand, I turned around. The door had caught up to me. It was closer than I remembered. I didn't know what to think or how to feel. My mind went completely numb. This house was driving me mad. I didn't want to think about it anymore. I was done. I was tired. And above all else, I was angry. By then, my heartbeat had almost steadied. Maybe the realization that there wasn't some creature creeping up the stairs had given me a false sense of calm, but that calm shattered the moment I remembered what waited behind that door, and the sound I'd heard echoing through the creaking steps. The breathing. I fought the urge to go back down the stairs and open it. I could feel my mind unraveling, slipping faster than I could hold it together. I couldn't tell what was real anymore, what was false, what was dream. I was terrified of opening doors, of revealing a reality I wasn't ready to face. Then it started invading my sleep, twisting my dreams into nightmares. I suppose that confirmed it. Whatever I was witnessing outside my slumber was real. I ran for what felt like eternity through an endless, blinding white void. When exhaustion finally took me, a door appeared before me. There were always doors, too many to count, too many to escape. Sometimes I dreamt of entire rooms made of them, doors crowding the walls, the ceiling, the floor, surrounding me no matter where I looked. I don't know why, but one door always stood apart. It was that same damn door I'd seen at the bottom of the endless hallway. The basement door, or whatever the hell it was. The one my wife was behind. Why was it always that door? Why the fuck was that one the only one that felt real? I had refused to mention any of this to my wife for so long. I let it eat away at me every single day. Every single night I would get less and less sleep because this whole thing was beginning to drive me up the wall. I was afraid of the nightmares I had. I couldn't control my actions in my dreams. Sometimes I'd open the doors and reveal a horrid sight of my wife or my daughter disfigured, mangled, or missing their faces. One time I saw them both trapped in a car, burning alive, and I was helpless to stop it. I never understood what any of this meant. How could I? I don't even understand why it is these things happened all so suddenly. Things had never been like this before. I regret every single thing I have done. I wish I had just gone and gotten help sooner. I wish I had a grip on fucking reality. I wish I hadn't ever moved into that fucking house. I am my own stone around my neck. Sink me to the bottom of the ocean and let me drown with my own mistakes. I had a nightmare that wasn't like any of the other ones I had up to this point. I was swimming out in the ocean. There were no bodies of land around me as far as the eye could see, just the endless blue ocean surrounding me in all directions. I looked down to see if there was anything beneath me that I had to swim to, but there was nothing. Nothing but the bottom of the ocean. When I looked up, something wrapped around my leg and began dragging me down. Deeper and deeper, I was dragged further away from all the light piercing the surface. I shot awake, drenched in sweat, panting and gasping for breath. It felt as if I had stopped breathing in my sleep for whatever duration of time I was down there. My mouth was dry, and I was in desperate need of water, as ironic as it was. So I made my way downstairs, passing by the basement door and into the kitchen. Before I reached the kitchen, I turned around. How did I pass it and not even notice? The basement door reappeared. Seeing it triggered something within me. I ran back up the stairs, praying that by the time I brought my wife back down, the door would still be there. I woke her up and told her that there was something I had to show her. "Seth, what's going on? It's 3 a.m. I don't care. Come with me." I had no emotion at this point. It was like everything was ripped away from me the moment I saw that door reappear. I felt nothing for her in this moment. Not even an ounce of love looking at the woman that meant everything to me not a moment before. I didn't know what it was about that door that could cause such a drastic change in me. "Why? What's happening? Can you please tell me what's going on?" "Just get up. I'm grabbing Ava. I need to show you something." I began making my way towards my daughter's room. I don't know if my wife was really there behind me the moment I left, but I didn't care. I took my daughter from her crib, where she was peacefully sleeping, and made my way towards the stairs. My wife was standing at our door. I could tell she was fully awake at this point. Her face was riddled in fear. I handed her our daughter, grabbed her other hand, and led her down the stairs. "Do you see it?" I asked. "Seth, what are you talking about?" "The fucking door, Mary. Do you or do you not see the door?" "The basement door? What are you talking about? What's wrong with you?" "Yes, I see the door." "No, it's not supposed to be there. It wasn't ever there before." "What? Seth, sweetheart, are you okay?" "Yes, it has. It's always been there." "Open it!" I screamed in her face. What? What are you?" Her face, once complex and puzzled, was now washed over in fear. Tears fell from her face like waterfalls, and her voice was shaking uncontrollably. "Open the door. I need specifically you to open the door. I can't do it, not again." "Why, what does that even mean? What's going on?" She was shaken up and she fumbled over her words. Her grip on our daughter tightened. It felt so believable. "Please, Mary, I will tell you if you just do me this one thing. Open the door." I could feel myself getting chalked at the words. What for? Why in this moment had emotions flooded my mind with an overwhelming force? She hesitated at first. I could see it in her face that she was, for the first time, afraid of me. She clearly didn't want to do what I had asked, and I wasn't sure why. I didn't know what it was that kept her from wanting to open a simple door. Maybe it was because I was demanding her to do so. Maybe it was because there was something she had down there that she was hiding from me. But she ended up doing so, and then quickly backing away from it and from me. But there was something wrong with her face. All that emotion, the fear that she was so riddled with, seemed to completely disappear. Her face was completely and utterly emotionless now. There wasn't an endless staircase to be seen, or a dark void devouring the bottom of it. No, there was a normal-looking basement. It was clearly used as storage, even though I was certain we never used it as that. Like I said, it was never there. I knew it was never there. I swore up and down it was never there, and my wife was clearly in on this with the house to make me believe it was there. That had to have been it, even if it was a thought that made not much sense at the time. I descended down the stairs. Then, suddenly, the door slammed behind me. I quickly turned around, shouting and banging on the door. "Mary? Mary, open this door right now! Let me out of here!" Silence. She didn't respond. Before I could muster another word, the light turned on behind me. I looked down and saw my wife standing at the bottom of the staircase, holding our daughter. She wasn't moving. She was completely still. They weren't even looking up at me. They were staring at... What were they staring at? I couldn't tell. A wall blocked my view. So I went further down the stairs until I saw exactly what they saw. It looked like the shape of two bodies, one big and one small, wrapped in cloth and lying on the floor. My wife and my daughter. Not apparitions of them like the ones I'd seen up to this point. This was what was left of them. lying beneath cloth on the cold concrete basement floor. I turned to look at the figures sitting there, staring at them. Their eyes met mine, and my heart dropped to the pit of my stomach. I looked at my wife. I didn't know what to say. She didn't move. She didn't blink. She didn't speak. Instead, a single tear made its way down her face. I knew what this meant. Deep down, I knew this was something I was responsible for. Our worst fears beget new ones. The things we bury deep within us resurface as something new. My wife lifted her hand, one finger extended, and pointed toward a brand new door in the basement. I'd had my fair share of these doors. There were too many, and each one kept taking me somewhere I didn't want to be. But this one, I knew behind it were the answers to all my questions. A white room presented itself. Birthed from the void was a single mirror, similar in nature to the one I'd seen at the bottom of the staircase earlier. As it rose from nothing, I watched as arms with rotting flesh wrapped around it from top to bottom, slithering away as they revealed the mirror's full reflection. A memory, or so I assumed, played out. Myself driving a car. I could tell I was intoxicated. My wife was yelling at me from the passenger seat, her face streaked with tears, and our baby girl was clutched tightly in her arms. Lifeless. It was reminiscent of something I had seen before. What had happened? Was I responsible for it? Her words echoed through my mind. Take some responsibility for once in your life, darling. I couldn't get her voice out of my head. It kept looping, twisting, like it was echoing through my skull. I had to take responsibility? For what? What was I responsible for? As I blinked, everything shifted. The white room was gone. The mirror was gone. Cold, wet dirt beneath my feet. I was standing above a ditch. My wife and my daughter buried at the bottom of it. This fucking nightmare just won't end. The shovel was in my hands. My hands. I was staring down at them, at what I must have done, what I couldn't have done. I couldn't have done this, could I? I heard a dragging sound behind me. Something was coming towards me. Something was coming to take me away. I had to stop. There existed no memory of this ever happening. I have a near-perfect memory. I remember every happy moment, sad moment, moments I wish I could forget, but plague me at night, moments of sheer anger and rage, all the most important moments of my life. And yet the parts with her are torn, stitched wrong. Only ragged scrap, a smile, a silence, a name that might belong to my wife or might be borrowed. The house I bought is here, but the basement holds a mirror that was never there before, and it breathes lies at me like someone under my skin. And now it shows me a reality, one which I know to be false, trying to tell me I killed my wife and my child. I don't even know if they're real anymore. I needed to get back to the house. I needed to burn it down. That might have been the only way I could escape this hell. That dragging sound drew closer, and I had remembered in that moment where I had heard it once before, at the bottom of the staircase. I whipped around to see the door, my saving grace, even if it might not have been there with that intent. I reached for the doorknob, and it opened itself, revealing that damned mirror once more. I had enough, so I grabbed the shovel and I shattered that mirror into a million pieces, paying no mind to the woman standing there. The reality around me fractures too, and the house I remember bleeds back through, the way it was meant to be. I was in the living room, but I knew all too well that this nightmare was not over, because my wife stood there in the same spot I left her before my descent. I ran through the kitchen and to the pantry door, ignoring her cries. Bursting through the garage door, I found my jerry can there next to my car. I couldn't catch my breath. I stared at the car for what must have been a whole minute. It was completely tattered. The front bumper was beaten in. The glass was shattered all around and the roof was caved in. I almost believed it. I almost let the house swallow me whole. But at this point, I had enough of all the vicious tricks it tried on me. I heard screaming from behind me, followed by a baby's screams and cries. It wasn't going to work. I didn't care. I took the jerry can with me back inside. I didn't care who or what horrors I was about to meet. I was going to do this. I was going to burn this house down, and I was getting rid of this monster. I saw her, that woman, whoever she was, hanging from the ceiling fan. It was almost laughable. The house was attempting everything it could to get me to feel something. I was, at this point, fully aware of all its tricks. I grabbed a lighter from a cabinet and continued my work. I poured the gasoline all over the living room floor. I trailed it out to the front door, and I threw the lighter down, and I watched as the whole bottom floor of this goddamned house quickly caught on fire. I started to walk away. The screams coming from behind me were so deafening. I tried to ignore them, but they were so loud. I turned around to look, the whole house already engulfed in flames. In the moment I turned around, something flashed in my mind. Memories. I saw that woman. I saw her in the back of my car with me. It was nighttime. We were laughing and having a good time. I saw her again at the beach. Her smile was so beautiful. I felt love for just a moment. I saw her on a hospital bed holding our baby girl. It was such an amazing sight to behold. But then it all faded away. Reality blended back in for a moment. I was back in my room and back in my bed. For just a moment, I felt my whole entire world shatter. There beside me lay the woman who I saw in those memories. I can't escape this hell no matter how hard I try. My wife was back. The house was back. It will never let me leave. There is only one way out left for me.